I watched a debate last night between Sam Shamoon and Jay Dyer against two Muslims. I believe their names were Ijaz and Pikachu. And man, that was a one-sided affair. That was really, and granted, I'm Christian, I'm biased, whatever. I think to the casual observer who really doesn't have an interest in either religion, or maybe you have an interest in both religions and you're open, um, there really was no, it wasn't a fair fight. It was not a fair fight. Let me say this. I've said it before, I'll say it again. And I saw Sam humbly denying this on his live stream. Sam Shamoon is the greatest apologist against Islam on the planet, bar none, that I've seen. Let me say that. Let me qualify that. He is the best that I've seen. Now, maybe there's a guy out there who doesn't have any kind of online presence. He doesn't write articles. He doesn't make videos. Maybe he's just in a predominantly Muslim country, engaging Muslims in person. That's entirely possible, and I don't know about him. But you don't know what you don't know. So what I do know is that of all the ones I've seen, Sam is the best, and it's not even close. Um, Jay Dyer is brilliant. I watch his streams from time to time. I've seen a bunch of clips of him dealing with all types of people, and he had some valuable stuff to add last night. But Sam could have handled this all on his own. I mean, he really could have. These two guys were outclassed. I didn't watch the entire debate. I think the whole thing went just over 3 hours. I caught about 2 hours and 45 minutes of it. I left at the end to go watch something with my wife. But man, when they got, first of all, I'm not going to do a full debate review or anything like that, but I will offer this. When they got to scripture portion of it, the Muslim apologists are so dishonest with scholarship that it's ridiculous. They were asking questions like, how many Western scholars believe that um, the Torah goes back to Moses? Now, in point of fact, so they meant one thing by the question, although they said another. So here's what they said. They said, how many Western scholars, already you're limiting the pool, right? How many Western scholars believe the Torah goes back to Moses? Well, that's one kind of question. That's a question about authorship. And you're saying, how many Western scholars believe that Moses actually wrote the Torah? And the answer to that is plenty. Plenty of conservative Western scholars believe that Moses wrote the Torah. And that's conservative Catholic, conservative Protestant, conservative Orthodox. Across the board, a conservative scholar will believe in Mosaic authorship of the Torah or the Pentateuch, right? They're not going to be those who are steeped in, 19th, 20th century German higher criticism, right? They're going to be the conservative evangelical scholars. They're going to be conservative Roman Catholic, conservative Orthodox, like I said. So that's that. Now, if you're asking a question about manuscripts, well, yeah, of course, we don't have manuscripts that date back that long. I'm not even sure a manuscript could survive that long. And their position is, well, we have manuscripts that carbon date back to the days of the Prophet Muhammad. Well, your religion came along, what, 1400 years ago? We have manuscripts older than that for the New Testament. The Dead Sea Scrolls are older than that. You know, so that's no great feat. You came 600 years after Christianity. So to sit there and wear it as some kind of badge of honor that you have a manuscript dating back to the time of your prophet, whoop-de-doo. That's not very difficult to do. But when Sam started pressing them, first of all, he's going into the history of the Uthmanic recension and all of that kind of stuff. But when he starts pressing them, he said, where is the first occurrence of a Quran that has all 114 surah? Where's that? He said, and then show me two manuscripts of the Quran that agree perfectly. And they would switch the subject and change the topic and go back and they're like, yeah, but none of your scholars think that the Torah goes back to Moses, and we don't have any manuscript of the New Testament before the fourth century, which, again, in point of fact, is false. We have plenty of manuscripts that date back to the second century, the papyri, but they're talking about complete manuscripts of the entire New Testament. All right, great, but who needs that? First of all, the New Testament was written over a period of time. So you're not going to even have a complete New Testament until the end of the first century, beginning of the second century. That's number one. And then the question is, when did Christians begin to start putting everything together in codices? That's another question. They seem to be painfully unaware of just the development of the book. The other thing is, Jay Dyer brought this up, and it was a good point. He said, we're not a religion of the book like you are. And he said, a lot of the stuff you're arguing against what Protestants believe. He's like, I'm not Protestant, Sam's not Protestant. So we don't have to accept the terms that you're applying to us. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, these guys were, I would say, unprepared for the task at hand. Now, the stuff about Trinity and Tawhid, I'm good with the Trinity stuff. The Tawhid stuff, I understand the concept of monotheism, obviously, but the arguments there were a bit more esoteric because I'm not at all familiar with Islamic metaphysics, at least not to any degree where I wouldn't claim competency in that area, right? But as I understood Sam's argument, he's saying, all right, you have the Quran, it's supposed to be uncreated, and you have a problem because the surahs some way argue against Allah. They're supposed to be able to intercede. They're supposed to be able to do all of this stuff. And, Sam doesn't say that they're hypostasized, but he's saying that you have to be able to account for how they can seemingly act as distinct entities from Allah. He's saying basically you got these two horns of a dilemma. They're either a mode of Allah, in which case you end up with modalism, or they're independent of him, and in which case you end up with some form of polytheism. And, it was when you sit down and think about it, it's a very strong argument. But their response was, you're saying something that no Muslim believes and that nobody has ever believed. And, you're just creating this out of thin air. And that was their response. Nobody believes this. We don't believe this. It's a straw man. We don't believe this. So I think Jay points it out, and Sam also points it out again. But the point is this: you don't have to believe it for this to be an entailment of what you do believe or what your sources say. Now, it's entirely possible that you don't believe this, and I will grant that Muslims do not believe what Sam was saying. But it could just be that Muslims are reading their sources poorly. And if it was me in that debate, and I'm no great debater, but I would have kind of hammered that point home and said, well, you're a poor reader of the Quran if you can't even acknowledge this. So that was good. Yeah, I think JP the Uncut's live stream tonight, they're going to be discussing this, so maybe I'll jump on and add my 2 cents there. But yeah, it was a one-sided affair. It was a brutal beating, and I'm not just saying that because I'm siding with the Christian dudes. Listen, I could admit somebody does well in a debate and somebody does poorly. Years and years and years ago, when I first started blogging, there was a pastor named Gene Cook who debated David K. Bernard, the guy that runs the UPCI now. And Gene Cook got cooked in that debate, right? He got demolished. And back then I said, look, I'm like, Gene Cook lost that debate and he had truth on his side. So I could admit when somebody who agrees with the things I agree with does poorly in a debate, right? That's not what happened last night. That is not what happened last night. The Christian dudes took that one easily, easily. Now, like I said, I watched 2 hours and 45 minutes of it. It went just over three. So maybe in that last 25 minutes or whatever, the Muslims did better. I'll go back and try to watch the rest of it at some point today. But man, so kudos to Sam Shamoon and Jay Dyer for a fantastic performance. The moderator, yeah, he was decent. He could have done better. There was certain points where everybody was talking. He had to mute them all, and they kept unmuting themselves, and I found that kind of comical. But yeah, I don't know. And I've seen that moderator before. I've seen him in clips. on YouTube. I don't know who he is. He's usually around a table with a bunch of chicks talking about how terrible women are or something like that. So interesting dude to moderate a theological debate, but maybe that's part of his thing. I don't know. But yeah. So that's my 2 cents. Like I said, when it came to scripture, the Muslim guys seemed really dishonest about scholarship and the way they were asking their questions. When it came to Trinity and Tawheed, they were, I don't think they were equipped for what Sam was throwing at them. But that's it. Hopefully, I'll jump on JP's live stream tonight and talk about it a little bit more. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, drop a like, a comment, share with your friends and family, and I'll catch you in the next one. God bless.